Okay, great. Well, thanks for coming, and thanks to the co-presenters for letting me go first. I really wanted to go first because when I hear other people talk about what they did in their classes, I always feel like what I did was very modest. And so I think this way I'm starting out with suitable expectations for us. And I had to name the presentation about 3 months ago. If I were renaming it now, I would rename it something else like implementation challenges for specifications grading. So main thing I want to do is just introduce the class that I'd implemented specifications for, and then say what sort of things I had trouble with as we went through the course. And maybe I'll just say, like, out at the front that we're on the quarter system at UC Irvine, and I taught the same class all 3 quarters, and I used specifications grading in fall and in winter. And then this quarter, I'm teaching 3 total classes, and I was like, this is so much work to implement. I'm just going to make my life a little easier and skip specifications grading this quarter. So yeah, just have that kind of like perspective as I'm talking about this, that I found it to be difficult to implement, and I'm definitely looking for improvements in my method. So I used specifications grading in a relatively small component of the course. It was in the 25% in-class quiz portion. And so what we did was the in-class quizzes, traditionally they'd be out of 10 points. And in this case, if it was a 3-question quiz, it was out of 3 points. And like each question was just either pass or no pass. And then for the students who didn't pass, for example, question 2, there would later be an online Canvas quiz that they could take on not this exact same question, but the same learning objective as that question 2. And so some subset of the students, from maybe like 3 out of the 55 students got 0 on some of the easier questions, and maybe 40 out of 55 got 0 on some of the harder questions. That was like the overall setup of the class. And let's see, I have not looked at the chat at all, but looks like there are no questions for me so far. Okay, implementation challenge 1 was like my teaching assistants always did a very good job of getting me a nice detailed spreadsheet that told me exactly which students need to retake which questions. So like having the overall score of 2 out of 3 wasn't good enough. I needed to know like question 1, question 2, question 3, did they get 0 or 1 points? But then once you have that list of students who need to take the Canvas quiz, I'm convinced there's no easy way to assign the quiz to just those students. Like it would be nice if you could copy and paste a list of their names, but you can't do that. You can maybe do it one name at a time, but I found that sort of tedious. If it was getting up to about 20 names, like having to go one at a time and like type it into this little Canvas box. And hopefully everybody in the audience also uses Canvas, because what I want to say is very geared around Canvas, the learning management system. And so one of my colleagues in the math department, Roger Delaka, he introduced me to a Python package called Canvas API. And so here at the bottom, you can see a screenshot of, this is like the entire code for assigning the Canvas quiz to the particular list of students that I want. So you have to make little changes, like you have to put the list of student ID numbers into the student list, but otherwise overall it's pretty short in terms of the code here. And so I assume maybe a higher than usual percentage, since this is like a math breakout room, but I assume not everybody is interested in this sort of solution. And the ones who are interested like aren't going to like instantly understand what this is saying probably, but the point of this is more like this solution exists. So if you'd rather spend an hour implementing this kind of solution instead of like 10 minutes like manually typing in all the student names, then I recommend this Python solution. So I don't think it saved me time in the long run, but it definitely saved me frustration in terms of like what I was doing. It was sort of fun to work with this. So that was challenge 1. Challenge 2 that I think shows up in a lot of different contexts is when the students take the makeup quiz, I didn't want them to be penalized for taking that. So I needed some way for the makeup quiz to like count as sort of like an extra credit quiz. So if they got 0 on the makeup quiz, I didn't want them to lose any points like they would if it was 0 out of 1 total. And my Google searches have convinced me that extra credit Canvas quizzes do not exist. So the way I did it was I did this as a regular Canvas quiz, and then I like downloaded the scores from that regular Canvas quiz, and then I uploaded those scores into a worth 0 points assignment. And then if a student earns 2 points in a 0 point assignment, then that'll function the same way as having 2 extra credit points. And yeah, so when I say Canvas quiz, I mean this like very specific thing where it's like auto-graded questions. And so that's the thing where if you wanted to have points, I don't think there's any way for it to count as extra credit. And something that I still don't know is I was making like the exact same settings, and this also happens when I'm not doing specifications grading on many different copies of these quizzes. And I couldn't find a good way to like duplicate the quiz multiple times, because at least on the UCI Canvas, there's this big warning message that says, don't ever import the same quiz number twice. So that's something I'm still looking for how to do. And yeah, next time I do want to go back to specifications grading. I think a lot of my frustrations with it would go away if the makeup quizzes were done in person rather than online. But I couldn't come up with a good way to do that. Because like I want somebody there to proctor. I want the students to be available at that time. I don't want the non-makeup students to have their time wasted during that time. So that's something that I've like actively been looking at, is how to schedule these makeup quizzes if it's in person as opposed to online. And one of the justifications I had for not doing specifications grading this quarter was I noticed a disappointing number of students who got like 0 out of 3 on the in-class quizzes and then got 3 out of 3 on the makeup quizzes. So I didn't want it to be like these makeup quizzes are some much easier thing so you don't have to try on the in-class quiz. And I had a few students ask like, oh, will there still be makeup questions for this one this afternoon? And I wondered like, what influence is that going to have on them? Are they not going to show up to the in-class quiz? Are they not going to study for it as much? So I really like the theory of specifications grading, but in terms of implementation, there's still quite a bit that I would like to fine tune. So yeah, I think that's all I will say, but I'm very happy for any questions. Like main point of this was to say, here are some challenges I came across and here was my way of approaching them. And I'm even more happy for any suggestions if you have a good solution for any of these challenges. Okay, thank you.